The day started like any other for Ryan Cole, a human single father trying to survive on the alien colony of Zenara Prime. He woke up before sunrise, packed a small lunch for himself and his 10-year-old son Eli, and walked him to the learning center before heading to his repair bay job. Life wasn't easy for humans here. They were tolerated, not respected, useful for fixing machines, cleaning docks, or mining fuel, but never treated as equals. Ryan didn't complain. He had learned that silence was safer than pride. Since his wife's death, all that mattered to him was keeping his son safe, fed, and away from trouble. The colony was buzzing with noise, floating transports, alien vendors shouting in strange languages, neon signs flickering through the mist. As Ryan tightened the bolts on a plasma converter, a sound caught his attention. Laughter, sharp and cruel. He glanced across the market street and saw a group of young alien teens surrounding two small figures. They were twin alien girls, with pale silver skin and glowing violet eyes. Their delicate robes were torn, their food scattered on the ground. The bullies, 3 tall reptilian aliens, mocked them for being weaklings and half-breeds. Ryan froze for a moment. Everyone else just watched. Some looked away. On Zenara Prime, humans didn't interfere in alien affairs. It was dangerous. But when he saw one bully shove a girl so hard that she fell to the ground, something inside him snapped. He dropped his tools and started walking toward them. His heart pounded, but he didn't stop. "Hey!" he shouted. "Leave them alone." The bullies turned, surprised. The leader hissed, showing sharp teeth. "Go away, human." "This is not your business." Ryan's voice stayed calm but firm. "They're kids, and you're 3 against 2. "That's not strength, that's cowardice," the crowd gasped. A human calling an alien a coward was almost unthinkable. The reptilian boy growled, his tail flicking with anger. "You think you can tell us what to do?" Ryan didn't back down. "I think you should walk away." For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then the bully lunged. Ryan ducked, his instincts taking over. He wasn't a fighter, but years of hard labor had made him strong. He caught the alien's arm, twisted, and pushed him back. The bully stumbled and hissed in pain. The others hesitated. Humans weren't supposed to fight back, especially not against aliens. Ryan picked up a small metal pipe lying nearby and held it like a club. "Last warning," he said. The leader glared at him, then spat on the ground. "Not worth it," he muttered and motioned his friends to leave. The crowd slowly scattered, whispering. Some recorded the scene on hollow devices. Ryan turned toward the twins. They were trembling. One of them had a small bruise on her arm. He knelt beside them. "Hey, it's okay now. You're safe." The older twin, maybe by a minute, looked up at him with wide violet eyes. "You helped us, even though we are not human?" she asked softly. Ryan smiled. "Doesn't matter what you are. No one should hurt you." The other girl reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pendant, a silver emblem shaped like a star wrapped in vines. She pressed it into his palm. "Thank you," she whispered. Before Ryan could say anything, they turned and ran down the street, disappearing into the crowd. He looked at the pendant. It shimmered faintly like something alive. Probably just a toy, he thought, but still, it felt strange in his hand. When he returned to his workshop, a few alien workers stared at him in disbelief. One whispered, "You shouldn't have done that, human." "Those girls, they're not ordinary." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" The alien just shook his head. "You'll see. Trouble always follows those who stand in the wrong place." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about those frightened eyes, the pendant, and the quiet words. "You helped us, even though we are not human." He placed the pendant on his bedside table beside a small photo of his late wife and son. The faint glow of the symbol cast silver light across the room. Outside, the colony sky shimmered with alien auroras. Ryan didn't know it yet, but far above, in a palace of glass and crystal, someone was watching the same glow. An alien queen, her eyes like burning stars, stared at a holographic image of the human who had dared to stand up for her daughters. And she whispered, almost to herself, "Find him." The next morning came quietly, but something in the air felt different. The people of Zenara Prime were whispering. In the markets, on the transport pods, and even in the repair docks, the same story spread like wildfire. A human dared to stand up to alien bullies. He fought for 2 alien girls. He didn't even ask who they were. Ryan Cole had no idea he had become the center of attention. He was back at his small workshop fixing a damaged hover engine when two alien customers walked by, glancing at him and murmuring. He tried to ignore it, focusing on his work, but the stares didn't stop. At lunch, his friend Yarrow, a half-human mechanic, sat beside him and whispered, "You really don't know what you've done, do you?" Ryan frowned. "I stopped some kids from getting hurt. That's all." Yarrow leaned closer. "Those twins you saved. People say they were wearing royal markings. You know what that means?" Ryan blinked. "Royal, as in?" Yarrow nodded gravely. "The royal house of Zinara. The queen's bloodline." Ryan laughed nervously. "Come on, they were just kids." But later, when he reached into his pocket and felt the small pendant one of the twins had given him, the star wrapped in vines, his hand trembled. The metal was smooth, elegant, and heavier than it looked. He could almost feel a faint hum, like it was alive. That night he locked his workshop and began walking home. The streets were quiet, the purple lights flickering in the mist. As he turned down a narrow alley, he heard soft footsteps behind him. Ryan turned quickly, gripping a wrench. "Who's there?" Two small figures stepped out of the shadows. It was them, the alien twins. Their silver skin glowed faintly under the neon lights. The older one smiled shyly, holding a basket of fruit. "We wanted to thank you again." Ryan relaxed, lowering his arm. "You didn't have to come all this way. Are you safe?" The younger one nodded. "We are now. You helped us." They placed the basket on his workbench, exotic fruits from the royal gardens, bright blue and gold. Ryan stared, speechless. "I can't accept this," the older twin giggled softly. "Mother said we must always repay kindness." Ryan's smile faded. "Your mother?" The twins exchanged a quick look, then the older one said, "She's very important." Before he could ask more, they turned to leave. The younger one paused at the doorway and whispered, "Keep the pendant safe. It will protect you." Then they vanished into the misty streets. Ryan stood frozen for a long time. He didn't understand what they meant, but deep down he knew this was not ordinary. Something powerful was moving in the shadows. Far away, high above the colony, in the royal palace of Zinara, a council of alien nobles stood in silence. At the center of the glowing chamber sat Queen Seraphis, her eyes reflecting galaxies. "Show me the human," she ordered. A guard activated the hologram. Ryan's image appeared, standing in the street, shielding her daughters, his clothes torn, yet his stance unbroken. The queen's gaze softened for a brief second. He did not know who they were. "No, your majesty," the guard replied. He acted without hesitation, no demand. "No fear." The queen leaned back on her crystal throne, her expression unreadable. "Interesting, a human, protecting royal heirs. What do you think of that, Minister Vrax?" The alien minister sneered. "Humans are impulsive, weak. He probably did it for attention." Seraphis's voice grew cold. "He didn't ask for attention. He didn't even stay to be thanked." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew better than to challenge the queen's tone. After a long pause, Seraphis said quietly, "Keep watch over him, discreetly. I wish to know what kind of man risks everything for children not his own." Meanwhile, back on the colony streets, Ryan tucked his son into bed and sat by the window, staring at the pendant again. It now glowed faintly brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. He whispered to himself, "Who are you girls? Really?" Outside his small apartment in the dark alley below, two shadowy alien guards observed from afar. One whispered into a communicator, "Target located. Orders?" A calm royal voice replied through the device, "Observe. Do not engage." The guards faded back into the mist as the human father closed his eyes, unaware that the most powerful woman in the galaxy was already watching over him, and that his quiet act of courage had begun to shift the balance between two worlds. In the grand palace of Zinara Prime, where crystal towers touched the stars and silver banners flowed like rivers of light, Queen Seraphis stood before a massive window. The alien queen's reflection shimmered on the glass, elegant, ageless but burdened by the weight of rule. Below her, the colony city stretched endlessly, a sea of glowing domes and floating ships. Yet her mind was far away, thinking not of wars, politics, or treaties, but of a single human man who had stepped into danger for two frightened girls, her daughters. Seraphis replayed the holo footage once more. The human, Ryan Cole. His eyes were steady, his movements untrained but brave. When the bullies struck, he didn't hesitate. He didn't know who they were. He acted because it was right. How strange, she murmured, her voice soft. A man with nothing, yet courage greater than kings. Beside her, Captain Arvin, commander of her royal guard, bowed his head. My queen, he appears ordinary, a laborer, a single parent. Perhaps it was luck, not courage. The queen's glowing eyes turned toward him sharply. Do you call compassion luck, Captain? He lowered his gaze. No, Your Majesty. Seraphis turned back to the window. Humans are unpredictable. They can be foolish, but sometimes they remind the stars of what kindness truly means. She walked to her throne and sat gracefully. Keep watching him, but he must never know we're observing. If he truly acted from the heart, his next choices will show it. Captain Arvin bowed. Yes, my queen. Down on the colony, Ryan's life seemed to return to normal. Or so he thought. He worked long hours repairing old ship engines, helped his son with schoolwork, and pretended not to notice how often strangers now watched him. One afternoon, while cleaning a plasma converter, he caught a glimpse of a small hovering drone outside the workshop. It wasn't one of the colony models. Sleeker, silent, royal-grade technology. Ryan stepped outside. The drone zipped away into the fog. He sighed. Probably just some patrol unit, he muttered, though something in his gut told him otherwise. Later that night, Ryan sat on the porch of his tiny apartment. His son Eli was asleep inside. The city's twin moons hung low, casting silver light over the quiet streets. He pulled the pendant from his pocket again. It glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. What are you? He whispered. Suddenly, the light flickered and a soft, melodic hum filled the air, like a voice singing without words. For a moment, Ryan saw flashes in his mind. Golden halls, twin girls laughing, and a tall woman with eyes like galaxies. Then just as quickly, the vision vanished. Ryan gasped, clutching his head. What was that? Unknown to him, deep in the palace, Queen Seraphis opened her eyes sharply. She had felt the same pulse. The pendant was bound to her daughters and to her. Somehow the human had awakened its connection. She stood from her throne. The bond has reached him, she whispered. He felt it. Her advisor, Minister Vrax, frowned. Majesty, this is dangerous. A human connected to royal energy? The people will see it as an insult to our bloodline. Seraphis's expression hardened. Then they will learn that honor is not decided by blood, but by heart. Vrax hesitated. You sound almost fond of him. The queen's voice dropped to a warning whisper. Mind your words, Minister. He bowed quickly, fear flashing across his face. Meanwhile, Ryan woke before dawn. Something told him to step outside. The mist was cold, carrying the scent of metal and ozone. Across the street stood a small cloaked figure, motionless. Who's there? Ryan called. The figure didn't move. Slowly he approached. When he was just a few feet away, the figure turned and revealed glowing violet eyes. One of the twins. Your Majesty's daughter? He whispered, stunned. She pressed a finger to her lips. Please, don't speak loud. We're not supposed to be here. Ryan knelt. Why are you here? Is something wrong? The girl looked frightened. Mother found out. About what happened. She's angry. Not at you, at those who hurt us. But some on the council want to punish you for interfering. Ryan's stomach sank. Punish me? For helping? She nodded sadly. They think humans should know their place. Ryan took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Tell your mother I meant no harm. The girl smiled faintly. She already knows. She watches you. Ryan froze. Watches me? Before he could say more, the girl placed her small hand on his chest. Don't be afraid. You did good. Then she turned and vanished into the mist, leaving behind only the soft echo of her voice. Far above, in her palace, the queen closed her eyes and whispered, He still shows no fear, even when warned. For the first time in years, Seraphis felt something she hadn't felt since before she became queen. Trust. She turned to the stars outside her window and murmured, Perhaps. Humanity still carries light worth protecting. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy itself seemed to listen. Days passed in uneasy quiet. Ryan Cole thought maybe things were finally settling down. The whispers in the streets had faded. The strange drone stopped circling his workshop, and the pendant on his nightstand no longer glowed. He told himself it was over. Whatever strange connection he had stumbled into was fading away. But peace never lasted long on Zenara Prime. One gray morning, as thick fog rolled through the colony streets, Ryan opened his repair shop early. Eli was still asleep upstairs, wrapped in a blanket. Ryan poured himself bitter synth coffee and began fixing a damaged plasma coupler. The silence broke when the door chime rang. 3 figures stepped inside, tall, broad, their reptilian scales glistening under the light. Ryan froze. He recognized them instantly. The bullies. But these weren't just the same teens. They had brought older, meaner company. The leader grinned, showing sharp teeth. "Morning, human. Remember us?" Ryan's heart pounded. He wiped his hands on a rag, keeping his tone steady. "I remember. You're still not brave enough to fight someone your own size?" The reptilian smirk faded. "You humiliated my brother. You made him look weak in front of everyone." Ryan stepped back slowly, calculating. The exit was behind them. His tools, mostly harmless. But his son was upstairs. He couldn't risk a fight here. "I don't want trouble," Ryan said calmly. "Take your pride somewhere else." The leader slammed his clawed hand onto a metal table, denting it. "Too late for that. You made trouble the day you laid hands on us." They began circling him. Ryan's instincts screamed danger. One lunged forward. Ryan dodged, swung a wrench, and hit him hard across the shoulder. The alien roared in pain. Another grabbed Ryan's arm, throwing him against the wall. Pain shot through his back, but he forced himself to stand. "Eli," he shouted upstairs. "Stay there." The leader laughed. "Oh, there's a child here? Maybe we should teach him what happens when humans forget their place." Ryan's blood ran cold. Something inside him snapped. He grabbed a welding torch and fired it toward the alien's face, a burst of flame forcing him to step back. "You're not touching my son." The aliens advanced again, when suddenly the lights flickered. A low humming filled the air. Outside, the ground trembled. The shop's metal door flew open with a crash, and a swarm of royal drones burst inside. Glowing blue and gold, the attackers froze. From the mist outside stepped tall armored figures, the royal guard of Zenara. Their armor shimmered like liquid crystal, and in their center stood a figure cloaked in white. Ryan blinked, barely able to speak. What is this?" The lead guard's voice echoed mechanically. "By decree of Her Majesty Queen Seraphis, all violence against the protector of the royal heirs is punishable by exile." The bully's eyes widened in terror. "Protector? Of the heirs?" one stammered. The guard raised his weapon. "Leave this colony, now." In seconds, the aliens fled into the mist, disappearing. The guards lowered their weapons but didn't leave. Ryan's chest heaved. "Protector? What are you talking about?" One guard stepped forward and placed a metallic emblem on his workbench, the same vine-wrapped star symbol from the pendant. "The Queen knows what you did," the guard said softly, "and she honors it." Ryan stared, speechless. "I don't want honor. I just wanted to keep those kids safe." The guard tilted his head slightly. "That is why you are honored." Before Ryan could respond, they vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving the shop filled with the faint scent of ozone and light. He sank into a chair, trembling. What just happened? A moment later, Eli ran downstairs, eyes wide. "Dad, I saw lights!" "What was that?" Ryan forced a weak smile. "Just people who owed me a favor." But deep down he knew this was far bigger than a favor. Far above, in her throne room, Queen Seraphis watched the holographic replay. Her guards had done exactly as ordered. No harm, only protection. Captain Arvin stood beside her. "He defended his child even against death. The attackers will not return." Seraphis nodded. Her voice was calm but distant. "He risked his life again. Not for power, not for reward, but for love." She paused, looking toward the starlit horizon. "Love for a child is the most honest strength there is." Arvin hesitated. "Shall we inform him of your identity, Majesty?" The Queen smiled faintly. "Not yet. Let him remain unaware. A heart untainted by fear is worth more than loyalty won by a crown." She turned, her silver cloak flowing behind her like a wave of light. "Continue to protect him," she said. "The time will come when our paths must meet." That night, as Ryan sat quietly by his window, the pendant began to glow again, brighter this time. He watched it pulse softly, unaware that each heartbeat of light was echoed in the palace far above. where a queen sat alone, watching the same rhythm and whispering, "Human, your courage has reached the throne." The next morning, the colony sky burned gold and purple as the twin suns rose over Zenara Prime. Ryan Cole barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of the royal guards, the burst of blue light, and the word that kept echoing in his head, Protector. He wanted to forget it, but deep down he knew things would never be the same again. At midday, while repairing an engine, Ryan heard a deep humming outside. He stepped out of his workshop and froze. A sleek silver royal transport had landed in the middle of the market street. The crowd gathered quickly, murmuring in awe. No one from the royal palace ever came down here, especially not to the human district. The ship door opened. A figure in white armor stepped out, holding a glowing scroll. "Ryan Cole," the guard announced in a commanding voice. "You are summoned to the royal palace of Zenara by order of Her Majesty Queen Seraphis." Ryan blinked. "You must be joking." The guard didn't move. "It is not a request," the crowd gasped. Some whispered his name, the human who saved the royal heirs. Others stepped back, afraid to be near him. Ryan sighed. "Let me grab my jacket." He locked the shop, kissed Eli on the forehead, and told him to stay with their neighbor until he returned. Then, with his heart pounding, he followed the guards into the royal transport. The journey was short but breathtaking. The ship cut through layers of mist until the floating royal palace appeared above the clouds, a shimmering fortress of glass and crystal towers. Ryan had never seen anything like it. As he stepped out, the air was cool and sweet. Golden vines crawled along marble walls that glowed with energy. Alien birds with diamond feathers flew in spirals above them. The guards led him through a long hall lined with massive statues, past heroes, queens, and ancient rulers. At the end stood Queen Seraphis, seated on a throne carved from starlight itself. She was radiant, her skin like pale silver, her hair floating slightly in the air, as if touched by gravity's mercy. Her eyes glowed softly, not cold but powerful, ancient. Ryan swallowed hard and bowed awkwardly. "Your Majesty." The queen regarded him in silence for a long moment. "You are the human who defended my daughters." Ryan nodded slowly. "Yes, ma'am." "I didn't know who they were. I just saw two kids being hurt." Her gaze softened just a little. "And you risked your life for them?" He shrugged. It didn't feel like a choice. For a moment the chamber was quiet except for the hum of floating lanterns. The queen stood from her throne and descended the steps gracefully. She stopped a few feet away from him, studying him as if he were a puzzle. "You live simply," she said. "You have no status, no wealth, and yet you showed more honor than most of my nobles." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't do anything special." "You did," she replied firmly. "You acted without expectation of reward, and that makes you rare, human." Her words carried a strange weight, one that made his chest tighten. "If this is about the fight," Ryan said carefully, "I'm sorry if it caused any trouble. I never meant to offend the crown." The queen's lips curved into a faint smile. "Offend me? You reminded me what courage looks like." The twin princesses entered the chamber then, running forward in excitement. "Mother," they cried. "That's him. That's our protector." Ryan smiled gently at them. "Hey, you two. Glad you're safe." The younger one giggled, holding her mother's hand. "He's brave, isn't he?" Seraphis looked down at her daughters, and for the first time in years she smiled, not as a queen but as a mother. "Yes," she said softly. "He is." Later in the private hall she spoke again, her voice quieter. "I must repay your kindness, Ryan Cole. You may ask for anything, wealth, a home, even a title." Ryan shook his head. "I don't need anything. Just a safe place for my son, and for those girls never to be hurt again." The queen tilted her head. "You ask for safety, not riches. Curious." He smiled faintly. "Riches don't tuck you in at night." Her eyes lingered on him a moment longer than necessary. "You are unusual, human." Ryan gave a small shrug. "Been told that before." As he turned to leave, the queen said softly, "Ryan Cole, your name will not be forgotten in this palace." He paused. "I'd rather it wasn't needed again." The queen smiled, a rare, genuine smile. "And yet something tells me this is only the beginning." As the royal transport carried him back through the clouds, Ryan looked down at the glowing city lights. He didn't know what kind of storm he had just walked into. But in the palace, Queen Seraphis stood by the window once more, watching his ship vanish into the mist. Courage, she whispered, the one thing even a queen cannot command. Yet he carries it so easily, and deep inside, for the first time in many years, she felt something dangerous, something she thought her heart no longer knew. Hope. The next morning, the royal palace of Zinara shimmered under the twin suns like a crown of light floating above the clouds. Queen Seraphis sat quietly in her private garden, a place few were ever allowed to see. The air was filled with the soft hum of energy vines and glowing flowers that pulsed like tiny stars. Her thoughts were heavy, her heart restless. It had been 2 days since the human Ryan Cole stood before her throne. Yet she couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he spoke without fear, his simple honesty, his gentle care for his son. He had no army, no power, no title, but he carried something far greater. Integrity. And that was something even her nobility had long forgotten. "Your Majesty," came the voice of Captain Arvin. "The human has returned. He waits in the chamber." Seraphis stood, smoothing her silver gown. "Bring him in." Moments later, Ryan entered, dressed in his cleanest shirt, though it still had oil stains from the workshop. He looked around awkwardly at the glowing hall before bowing slightly. "You called for me, Your Majesty." "Yes," Seraphis said softly. "You were promised a reward, and I always keep my word." Ryan shook his head immediately. "I told you before, I don't need one. I just want to live peacefully with my son." The Queen tilted her head. "Still, I must offer something. It is custom, and my gratitude." She raised her hand, and the floor panels lit up with holographic projections. A small villa on the floating gardens, a royal guard insignia, and a vault of gold and crystal credits. "These," she said, "are yours to choose from. Wealth, home, or honor. Choose one." Ryan looked at the images, then back at her. "What if I don't choose any?" A faint smile crossed her lips. "Then I shall consider that your choice." He chuckled softly. "Your Majesty, I fix broken machines for a living. I'm not made for palaces. My son needs normal life, not one wrapped in guards and walls." Seraphis studied him in silence. "You fear luxury?" "I fear forgetting who I am," he said simply. The Queen's expression softened, not as a ruler, but as a woman hearing truth after years of lies. "You are different from the others," she said. Ryan smiled faintly. "I think that's why I keep getting into trouble." The Queen let out a quiet laugh, light, musical, and surprising even to herself. The guards outside the hall exchanged glances. They had never heard that sound from their queen before. After a moment, her tone grew thoughtful. "Tell me something, Ryan Cole. Why risk your life for children you didn't know? Many humans here would have walked away." He met her gaze calmly. "Because someone once helped my son when I couldn't. I learned that kindness isn't currency and it's a chain reaction. You pass it on." Her eyes glimmered like molten silver. "And what if it cost you everything?" "Then at least I'll lose something worth losing," he said. For the first time, Queen Seraphis was speechless. That evening, she dismissed her council early. Alone in her chamber, she replayed the conversation again and again. His words echoed louder than any advisor's speech. Kindness isn't currency. Lose something worth losing. She walked to the balcony and gazed at the endless sea of stars. "Why does he unsettle me so?" she thought. "He's just a man, a fragile human with a small life and a smaller home." Yet her heart refused to believe that. When her daughters entered the room, she quickly hid her expression. "Mother," the older twin said, holding a drawing, "we made this for the protector." Seraphis looked down. It was a simple picture. Ryan smiling beside the two girls, their hands joined under the twin suns. Her throat tightened. "You miss him already?" The younger twin nodded. "He's nice. He talks like people, not like royals." The Queen smiled faintly. "Yes, he does." She touched the pendant on her chest, the twin to the one Ryan held, and for a moment, their heartbeats aligned through the light. Later that night, as Ryan tucked Eli into bed, he noticed the pendant glowing again. A calm warmth spread through his chest, the same way he felt when the Queen had looked at him. Eli yawned. "Dad, will we ever go to the floating city again?" Ryan smiled. "Maybe someday, but not yet." As the boy fell asleep, Ryan whispered to himself, "People like us don't belong in palaces." But far above the clouds, Queen Seraphis stood on her balcony, staring at the same stars, whispering a different truth. Perhaps that's exactly where you belong, human. A full lunar cycle had passed since Ryan Cole last stepped foot inside the royal palace of Zanara. He'd tried to return to his normal life, fixing ships, teaching his son, pretending that everything was ordinary again. But it wasn't. Every few nights, the pendant glowed faintly on his desk as if whispering a secret. And every time it did, somewhere in the palace above the clouds, Queen Seraphis felt its echo in her chest. Their fates were quietly bound, though neither had spoken it aloud. One stormy evening, the colony alarms began to blare. The sky burned red. Ryan rushed outside and saw a royal patrol ship streaking through the clouds. He could feel the vibration in the air, the scent of danger. From a nearby news drone, a voice announced, "The royal palace has been attacked. An unknown alien faction has breached the outer shields." Ryan froze. The palace. The twins. The queen. Before fear could settle, his workshop door burst open. A royal guard stumbled in, armor scorched and cracked. "Ryan Cole," he gasped. "Her Majesty. She requests your presence immediately." Ryan blinked. "Me? Why me?" The guard fell to one knee. "Because she trusts no one else." Ryan didn't hesitate. He looked at Eli standing wide-eyed near the stairs. "Stay with the neighbors. I'll come back. I promise." Then he grabbed his jacket, the glowing pendant, and followed the guard into the storm. The royal transport sliced through clouds lit by fire and lightning. When it landed on the palace balcony, the damage was clear. Walls burned, guards wounded, smoke rising from the gardens. Inside the great hall, Queen Seraphis stood tall despite the chaos, her royal armor gleaming like silver fire. The twin princesses huddled behind her. Ryan ran forward. "Your Majesty." She turned, relief flashing in her eyes before she quickly hid it behind her calm expression. "You came." "Of course I did," he said. "What's happening?" "Rebel forces from the outer sectors," she replied. "They want to overthrow me and then claim my daughters as leverage. My defenses are breaking." Ryan glanced at the trembling twins. "Then we moved them somewhere safe." Seraphis nodded. "I was hoping you'd say that." She pressed a command on her wrist console. The wall behind them opened, revealing a hidden corridor. "Take them through the escape passage. Protect them, no matter what happens." Ryan looked at her, the fierce glimmer in her eyes, the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. "What about you?" She smiled faintly. "A queen does not run, but her protector must not fall." Ryan hesitated. "I'm not your protector." Seraphis met his gaze. "You are, by heart, if not by title." Their eyes locked in 1,000 unspoken things between them. Then she turned away, drawing her blade of living light. "Go," she whispered. Ryan led the twins down the narrow passage, the walls vibrating with distant explosions. He could hear the sounds of battle echoing above them. Metal against metal, roars, energy blasts. One of the girls began to cry. "She'll die," she sobbed. "Mother will die." Ryan knelt, gripping her shoulders gently. "Hey, listen to me. Your mother's stronger than any army. You just hold on to that faith, all right?" They nodded, trembling but brave. As they reached the escape platform, the passage behind them shook. A door exploded open. Rebel soldiers stormed in. Ryan pushed the twins behind him and grabbed a fallen guard's plasma pistol. "Stay down!" Bolts of blue light filled the corridor. Ryan fired back, hitting one, ducking behind a pillar as another blast scorched the wall beside him. His hands trembled, but he didn't stop. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for war. But he had something the rebels didn't, something human. When the last attacker fell, Ryan's arm burned from a grazing shot. He winced but forced a smile. "See? Told you I'd keep you safe." The twins hugged him tightly, their small hands glowing faintly. "You're bleeding." Before he could answer, their touch released a pulse of light that sealed the wound instantly. Ryan stared, stunned. "How?" The older twin smiled weakly. "Mother gave us her light, and now we give some to you." Moments later, a deafening explosion rocked the palace. Then silence. The queen appeared at the corridor's end, wounded, exhausted, but alive. Ryan ran to her. "You're hurt." She shook her head. "Only tired." She looked at her daughters, unsafe, unbroken, and then at him. You did it, he smiled. We did it. Seraphis reached out, touching the pendant around his neck. This bond was forged by chance, she said softly. But now it is destiny. She turned to her daughters. From this day, Ryan Cole will stand as protector of the royal bloodline. His courage will be written among the stars. Ryan's eyes widened. Your Majesty, I can't. You already have, she interrupted gently. The twin princesses smiled, their eyes shining like tiny suns. Thank you, Protector. Seraphis stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. You reminded a queen that kindness is strength. You changed the way a galaxy sees humans. Ryan looked at her, not as a ruler but as a woman who had found her heart again. And you reminded me that not all crowns are made of gold. For a moment, the battle, the fire, the fear, it all faded away. Only light remained. As dawn broke over Zynara Prime, the people looked up to see their queen standing beside a human, her daughters safe, her palace reborn. In that single image, the galaxy saw something it had long forgotten, hope between worlds. And as the sun rose, Ryan Cole, the simple human single father, became a legend whispered across the stars, the protector of the royal bloodline.